Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is the second time I'm trying because last night I tried and the battery failed on me. I've been very busy Wednesday and I've had to film this, which is quite nerve-wracking because I don't know when I'm going to be that fast at editing it, because I've had enough of editing videos because I've been helping. Oh no, and now the sky's overcast. I've been editing a video for a family friend and I've been putting on my skills and I've learned some new skills, and then I got in. I think I said I didn't get into the Wuthering Heights cast. I didn't get in. Should have cast me because I'm amazing. That's a joke. So I didn't get in there, but then I went to the rescheduled audition that I didn't feel well to go to the first time, so I went again and I got in and I was so impressed. I was so happy, and I think I gave the pianist a bit of a hard job because I had to pick two differing musical theatre songs, which I've never had to do before, and I've never had to do with the piano. The first piano audition, I've normally just had like a cappella or like backing track, so it was quite it was interesting because I sang I Dreamed a Dream because I thought, you know, I know that one, might as well do that one because I know it and it doesn't take that much learning. And then I chose I Could Be Jewish for You. No, I'm not offending any Jews out there. Just a great song, and it's very differing from I Dreamed a Dream. Like, you couldn't pick two more polar opposite songs. Now I got in and they were really lovely. I was debating whether I should tell them about my vision impairment, but I thought since it's a second audition and sort of they're going out of their way to sort of rearrange for me and also some other people, but I don't know how many, I think it was about 2 others, but since they're going out of my way and sort of I might, do you know what I mean, they didn't have to, and sort of I might as well tell them now, because just in case they think, oh no, and sort of then at least they don't have to sort of, do you know what I mean? But they were really lovely about it, and they said they could see potential, which I'm like, yay! I'm glad you see potential. Not many people do when I say I'm vision impaired. They sort of just like, I think they have this preconceived notion that I won't be able to do anything. And I'm not responsible enough to know that I can do, like, I wouldn't audition for something if I didn't think I couldn't do it. I know what I can and can't do very well. Just say I'm not going to be an Olympic diver anytime soon, because no, I'm not. I probably won't be like a wrestler because I'm smallish and I'm not very intimidating and I'm not very strong. They're things I know I'm never gonna be. I'm not likely, and I don't want to be, quite frankly, and I wouldn't put myself up for that. And I think it's all about building confidence as well, which is I think my key area of where I need to work on. So today I'm here to talk to you very late because I don't know why, but it took me forever to write notes for this. I don't know why. I'm here to talk to you about Orphan Black episode 7, Gag or Throttle, Rachel's episode. Yeah. And also, one thing I'm really struggling with this week is I'm going to Comic-Con Sunday. Figured out why all of it wasn't uploading. It's because I had 2 tabs of YouTube open, thinking I was being clever, but I wasn't. Just like, I can't believe it. On Sunday I have to leave really early to pick up a friend who we're taking with, and then to get the train because they live about 4 or 5 minutes away, so it's sort of, and then we're taking the train there, and then we probably won't be back till 6-7, which is like, well, Helena might be too tired to watch Orphan Black. And what's worse is this episode is meant to be really dramatic and like the best, and like, oh, and also I've seen both the Space Channel trailer, because I always live to find them because they are always the best, and the BBC America one, and I've seen like the screen cap things where they have like Orphan Black and then like a picture from the episode, and I've seen sort of like gifs that people have found from trailers and stuff, and people are thinking Mrs. S is gonna die, and I'm like, I can see that. And also because people have found, like, I follow Orphan Black Australia. They are so good. I love them. They're so good. And they have the episode 9 description, and it says after a shocking death or something like that, and it's just like, oh yeah, we know what's coming. And also that Helena is kidnapped, and I'm like, why is it always Helena? I mean, I can understand why it's always Helena, but why is it always Helena at the end of the season, always getting kidnapped? This episode was so good, so good. it was Rachel's episode, and the ending had me a little bit squeamish. I was a bit like, oh, I don't know whether I can sit and watch this. But no, let's get started. Let's get my notes up. So we start the episode and it's a flashback to Rachel, you know, because it's Rachel's episode. And her time at Dyad with Leaky, who at the time has a full head of hair in this first flashback, and it's just like all these flashbacks are like watching Leaky's hair just recede to nothing. And sort of even then, when like Rachel's 8, 9, 10, they're interested in life extension. And young Rachel is played by Cynthia Gallant, and we find out that she became aware at 6 years old, and it's a bit like, imagine that, I want candy, you're a clone. I'd like to know how that conversation went down. And then we sort of pan around to see all these sort of the board members in the room, and it's the guy that killed Evie Cho but saved Delphine, Dr. Van Leer. I'm a bit like, I don't know whether I should like him or not, because I did feel a bit sorry for Evie Cho. Yeah, I did feel a bit sorry, but then I was a bit like, oh, I don't like you either. It's like one of those villains you sort of love to hate, but then you like her as well. You feel a bit sorry for her. And we find out she picks her nails. You know, it's a bad habit. And that her tag number is 779H41. Because all before this episode, Orphan Black, the Twitter page, was doing a lot of like sly and sort of subtle hints to what's going to happen. And they released the 779H41. Well, they did a sort of, they tweeted Casima's tag number, MK's tag number, and then the 779H41. And I'm surprised nobody thought it was Rachel's, because I did think that. I thought, oh, I bet that's Rachel's. I bet that's Rachel's. Because everyone was sort of concerned that it was sort of like the sick clones and the dead clone. Poor mate, MK. Sorry, MK. And also they said another clone, Lisa Glynn, 415K98. Another one for Tatiana Maslany to play. And then we go back to present day Rachel, who is in a board meeting, and PT is talking about mitochondrial DNA, which is fundamental to the healing process, but it's only passed down by the mother. It's quite interesting. And then PT says, my research into my anomalous longevity has only taken us so far. It's a bit like, you mean your life living for 170 years, PT? And the board doesn't know he's a fraud, and I don't think neither does Rachel. And then he's like, I'm gonna leave, and leave it to Rachel, because he says about Rachel finding their Eve, you know, Adam and Eve. And Rachel says, you've all benefited from your seats at this table. We owe a great debt to Mr. Westmoreland. And a board member called Mr. Al-Khatib says, I don't carry debts, Miss Duncan. I don't carry debts, Miss Duncan. And she's like, Mr. Al-Khatib, we freed your daughter from a genetic heart defect. What is that worth to you? My mistake, I misspoke, and says. It's quite interesting that sort of they're all blackmailed to be there. Be quite interesting to see whether they've all got a stake, like their family being treated by them. They've got family who's sick, or they're sick, so they are taking part in this sort of board thing because they want to live, they want a cure, they want to be alive, I guess. And I think that's the crux of all of this. All these people want to live and have a long life, I guess. And then Rachel says, as you know, Dr. Cody is taking over as head scientist from my late mother. It's a bit like, yes, Rachel, because she killed her. She killed her. We all know what happened last week. She killed her. Our next phase with the Lin 28A subject is biopsies of her liver, lungs and stomach. And then Rachel brings in Kira, who they're going to do this to, who I don't think has heard what they plan to do to her. And Rachel says, you heard PT mention our modern day Eve. Here she is. And then, you know, the credits roll, and we then go to Kira and Rachel in Rachel's office, and Kira is getting pretty fed up and just wants to go home. And Rachel says Kira will be able to go home, and it's all a bit of a lie. Can I just say though that Kira's drawing skills are much better than mine. I can just about draw stick people. Then Kira gives Rachel a friendship bracelet because I think Kira likes Rachel, and I think what with Kira feeling all the clones, she sort of, and that's sort of something Rachel doesn't know, she probably can feel Rachel and sort of her sadness and anger, I guess, before being taken back to her room. And Rachel says she used to make them at summer camp, to which Kira asks if she's still friends with them. And Rachel says no, and Kira says that her mum used to move her about lots, so she never kept any friends really. And Kira asks her, can she talk to her mum? And Rachel's like, Rachel says tomorrow. And I think Rachel likes Kira. She sort of sympathises with her. She sort of knows what it's like to be a child that's grown up in all of this corporation drama, clone drama. And then we see Dr. Frontenac come in, and he's sort of telling Rachel about how they found a boat, the boat that Cosima went off in, and it's sort of unmanned and onshore, sort of as if to say they drowned at sea. And it's all a bit like, no, Dr. Frontenac, Cosima did not drown at sea. I will fight you on that, because seriously, I need Cosima alive because I'm waiting for the reunion between her and Scott, because I love them two together. I don't love them as like a romantic relationship. I love them as a friendship because I love them so much. Rachel says, don't assume they've drowned. And I'm like, yes, Rachel, for once I agree with you. And note for later that Cosima has taken a lot of the cure. And then Rachel's going to the island. And then we go to Sarah and Mrs. S, who are reeling from taking Kira, from Dyer taking Kira, and Sarah has to wait to speak to her daughter. But Mrs. S wants to go in there, all sort of guns blazing, and Sarah's like, you know, we can't do that anymore because a lot more is at stake. And then we go over to Hell Wizard, who has a surprise for Scott, and this was my favourite scene because it's Cosima, and they have a hug and they reunite, and I'm just so happy. I'm so happy. That's been my favourite scene this whole season because I love them two together. It's just sort of a lovely friendship, and he cares for her so much, but not in like a romantic way, in a sort of, you're my friend, I care for you so much. You know what I mean? I just love them two. Their friendship is so, and it is an underrated friendship. I'm telling you now. And we find out that Cosima deliberately sent it offshore, and Charlotte's in there as well, being like, you know, we sent it offshore, we did it deliberately. But Cosima has to break some bad news to Sarah. She Skypes Sarah to say that they're taking Sarah's egg, and that they have at least a day to sort of rescue Kira because they need to give her hormones and all that. And then Mrs. S says the killer line of, they're doing it again to another generation of women, and it's all a bit like, yes, Mrs. S, you know what's going on. And they need leverage to get Kira back, and Cosima's like, well, how about E.T. Westmoreland is a fraud? I saw a picture of him and Susan Duncan in 1967. He's just assumed this identity to sell his story. Like, well, yeah, that'll work. And then Sarah and Siobhan, they sort of plan and say they're going to work on the Marnie Trail, and Cosima, Scott and Hell Wizard are going to look at the history of PT and sort of find out how he came to be PT Westmoreland. And then we have an incoming addition to the video call of Alison. I'm like, Alison, you're back. I'm so happy to see you. Like, really. And she's sort of got a towel on her head, and like, she's just sort of been out in the shower and stuff. She says, oh goodness, Cosima, I just got your message, I'm so happy you're back. We find out Alison is coming back tomorrow, and I cannot wait. And Alison's being filled on the bad news from Mrs. Ed. And then Cosima sort of says she's got more scary news to break, that Virginia Cody is on the island. And it's all a bit like, yeah, told you didn't want to let her escape. And she says, and I've got a feeling it didn't end well for Susan. No, it didn't, and it didn't end well for Ira either, be real. And then we go to the island, and there seems to only be guards there now, and I want to know where the villagers gone. And Rachel goes to lay flowers at Susan and Ira's graves, and it's all a bit like, oh, Susan, Ira, you tried. I still, you're a bit iffy, Susan, but at least you tried to redeem yourself. And then we flash back to one of the earlier meetings with PT and Rachel, and PT says, Susan has shown me she doesn't have the backbone, but you have proven yourself. Will you join me at my side to lead the illusion forward? I consider you my daughter. I think that shows why PT means so much to Rachel. She didn't have what was a typical childhood. She was told her parents were gone, dead, to then later find out everything she thought was a lie. Everything she thought was true was a lie, and see her parents come back to then watch them die, but sort of, and not have answers of why they left her, and sort of, yeah, because I think she was so sad when Duncan died, because although she sort of was angry towards him, and same with Susan, although she was angry towards both of them, I mean, rightfully so, they left you there, or they were forced to leave you there, that didn't mean they weren't her parents, and that she didn't in time want to not come close to them, but to know they were there and they were alive, and sort of, yeah, and to have someone seem to care for her and want to be with her, but like choose to stay, and it's something she hasn't had. Even though I don't think PT cares for Rachel, I don't think he cares for Rachel. I think he just says the right things and knows she's sort of a means to an end, if that makes sense. I do sort of feel sorry for Rachel. Yeah, you do have to feel sorry for Rachel, because in a sense she's probably the most damaged of them all, because I feel like she has the most identity crisis, do you know what I mean? Because she can't, I do sort of feel sorry for Rachel. Yeah, you do have to feel sorry for Rachel, because in a sense she's probably the most damaged of them all, because I feel like she has the most identity crisis, do you know what I mean? Because she can't be the person that she wants to be. She wants to be this big corporate ruler of this company and take charge, but they will never let her. Whereas Cosima, she's a scientist. Her sort of being a clone doesn't affect that in that sense. And Sarah, she is her own person. Nobody sort of says, you can't do this because you're a clone and we own you. You will never have full power. She has even more of an identity crisis than Alison in a sense. And then PT joins Rachel at the joint graves and Rachel says she never believed me. And then we find out that Rachel is going to meet Virginia, her mother's murderer, because she's having an examination which PT did not tell her. And Rachel, it sort of froze Rachel, who sort of thought she was in charge and not a test subject herself. To which PT says, Virginia wants to cure the remaining leader as much as you do. And again, a bit like my backside, she wants to cure the clones. I would not trust her as far as I could throw her. She sterilised women because she thought it would progress the human race. We think that's, I want to kill a leader who are women and not her caster clones. And then we flash back to that meeting with PT and Rachel, and PT is sort of saying that by signing this form she is legally emancipated and that she's no longer 779H41 or Neolution property. And then we flash back to the present, and as Cody's leaving her to get changed, we see her look on the screen at her tag number and sort of like medical notes sort of thing, but with her tag number in bold letters, destroying what PT told her because she's still referred to as 779H41. And then Cody comes back and she's performing the examination and she says something which I hope Rachel comes back to, and it's like, you killed my mother, and tells Rachel that she has a big that she can thank her for getting rid of Susan. Stabilize the leader subjects and we can finally use them as a baseline. So it was after Cody's like, stabilize the leader subjects and we can finally use them as a baseline, and Rachel said, your priorities are refreshing after Susan, and Cody says, she was always preaching, you can thank me for putting an end to that. And it's like, I think you made a big mistake there, Cody. Rachel, mind just come back to you about that, because although her and her mother had disputes, I think if anyone was gonna kill, no, but like Rachel had no choice in it. She had no choice in the matter. She was finally getting everything she wanted, and she was proving to her mother that she can do this and they will let her. But now she's dead. Sort of, she's got nothing to prove to her, and it's sort of almost like she wanted to prove to everyone that sort of said she couldn't. And then we flash back to an older Rachel, not like older than the young Rachel at the start of the episode, but younger than Rachel now, with long hair, undergoing the same procedure that she's having in the present in Dyad, overseen by Leaky, because of another clone 528M32's test result, and Leaky's closely monitoring her disease, and Rachel says that that's the first time he's called it that, a disease. And Rachel says to Leaky that so far his attempts at treating the disease have been useless, and Leaky says there's no manual on treating synthetic DNA because it's synthetic DNA they are. And Leaky says he isn't allowed to share Rachel's results, which kind of riles Rachel because she wants to know. She's been raised being told she will know everything. She is a self-aware clone. To then be told she's not allowed her own sort of medical record. And Leaky tells her that she's not exempt from the experiment. And it's a bit like, well, why have a self-aware clone then? And tell her she can be part of everything, but you're not exempt though. And then we go back to present day Rachel having had the examination, sort of recovering, and then we go to Sarah and Mrs. S, who are going through more of the evidence from the Geneva Free, which are my nickname for Felix, Adele and Delphine, the Geneva Free, and I think it's such a good name. Asking Sarah if she remembered about Van Leer saying how he was talking about a board to push the Neolution idea that if not everyone on the island knew about PT, do they? And then the crack team, we go to the crack team of Scott, Simmer and Hell Wizard, who are back at it again, looking into the myth of PT and how he had to have disappeared for him to take over the Westmoreland idea, and sort of someone had to have died to sort of then take over that identity, and how he had to have disappeared and presumed dead to have taken over his identity. And Scott and Hell Wizard say about PT and Susan recruiting Cody while at Cambridge in the 70s, and that student registration from that time would be a mountain to climb because it's not all on the computer. Casima says they started resurrecting Neolution before then, and that they should be looking for majors in history and science and philosophy. And then we go back to Susan and not Susan, she's dead. We go back to Mrs. S and Sarah, who have got information from the Geneva Free, that all these Dyad subsidiaries are funneling money into a Kuwaiti consulting firm, Sarah says, using it for bribes, and that according to Adele, if it is controlled by a man called Hashim Al-Khatib. Is it Al-Khatib who was at the start of the episode questioning Rachel? And Sarah's sort of struggling and worrying that she won't be able to save Kira this time. And then we go to Donnie. I know, I'm so happy, Donnie. Oh, I missed you, Donnie. Who's tidying up before Alison comes home, pulling a few banners around. And it's a bit like how I imagine my dad and my brother tidy up before my mum and I get home after we've been somewhere, like after we've been to a concert for the day. And then holy freaking Christmas cake when Alison comes in and her hair, I mean, it's a very Alison move to do, but it's like, whoa. And my mum liked it. I thought she would. She's very much into the dyeing her hair. She used to think she'd be a bit like Sarah in a sense, you know, the rock. She's a bit like Mrs. S as well. Yeah. And Alison's gone all spiritual. It's quite funny. She's sort of a free spirit now. And I think poor Donnie is aghast, and he's like, oh my god, you're still my wife? And I'd like to know, is Carl Jung like Neolution type bad, or is he just like, yeah, is it just like a phase type thing? Is it legit and isn't dodgy? And then we find out she has a tattoo, live deep. It's like, oh, which means live deep and suck the marrow out of life. And then we go back to the island, and Dr. Frontenac is going behind Rachel's back and going straight to PT, telling him that Kira is on track to be ready for the egg harvest tomorrow, and that we see Rachel is waiting outside, hearing PT ask if her bond with Kira will affect anything or cloud her judgment, so sort of overhearing their conversation. And then Rachel confronts PT, asking if that was Simon, Dr. Frontenac, to which PT responds that he has many people who report to him while putting away the tablet that he had in his hand, and he asks how the examination went, and Rachel says she would prefer to choose her own physician and she wants advance notice of said examination. And then Petey wants an update on Kira to see sort of how attached she is, and we find out that Kira will be ready to harvest their eggs in 24 hours, Rachel estimates, and that when she recovers they can begin studying her healing at deeper tissues. But we find out Petey has other plans, and he says, "You've grown quite fond of Kira. After surgery I want you to bring her to the island," which froze Rachel. I think it froze me. I was like, whoa, no. And Rachel says, "But we have the resources at Dyad to move on to the next steps," and Petey's not going to let that happen. He says he's lost control in terms of Susan and Cosima and sort of Yanis, and he's lost grip on the island and the villagers, and he's beginning to lose his grip on Rachel, and he sort of needs to prove he still has the power and still in control, and he can do as he pleases, and that she's befriending Kira as well, so he worries he won't have that power over her anymore. And he says, "I prefer to have her here," and Rachel says, "It's our change of tactic with Sarah which has brought her in." And I think Rachel's starting to see similarities between her and Kira, that they want to use her the same way they used Rachel, and they treat her like they treated Rachel, and to think that she's in control and knows everything, but she doesn't, sort of the way they treat her. And Petey asks sort of on whose behalf is she arguing now, and then sort of Rachel leaves and is leaving sort of because she's going back to the mainland, and as she's sort of going out, guards come in bringing Cody's guest, which is Mark, and I'm like, "Mark, it's so good to see you again. Oh, I thought we'd left you at season 3, never to be returned." And he's made a deal with Cody that in exchange for information about Helena, she will cure Mark, and it's a bit like, okay, Cody, okay, like I believe that. And that he's the last of the Caster boys, and that Mark says he can't bear that Gracie just sort of looks at him looking for symptoms, and that he can't leave her alone. Well, I don't think Cody's the person to be asking for a cure. And then we go to Helena in the nunnery, and Gracie has come to visit, and it's been like, "Gracie, you're back as well." It's like, oh, I'm so excited. I'd like to think either Mark's doing his bit on the island and then Gracie's gonna run away with Helena or something like that, or Gracie knows what Mark's doing and so goes to sort of warn Helena, or the worst idea is that they're both in it together and Gracie is going to stall Helena after everything she did for you, Gracie. And it's a bit like, what happened to the nun? I thought she was protecting her. And then sort of we go to a few hours later, and just before Rachel leaves, she goes to find the tablet in Petey's desk, and she knows he was using, and she finds it, and it turns out it's a monitor for Rachel's eye, like going down the rabbit hole. And that's how Petey knew about what Rachel was doing just as she did it, because he was with her as she did it. And she quickly puts it away, and it's like, as Petey comes in, and it's like, "Oh, I'm just coming to say goodbye," you know. And then we sort of go back to Dyad with Rachel, who is looking in the lift mirror at her eye, sort of like almost like all wearing in her brain that she's sort of been played almost. And we flash back to a moment when Rachel is talking to Leaky, and she shows him an autopsy report, and that she's taken initiative and done one on one of the clones, and she's killed 528M32 Miriam Johnson, who is creative and a musician but homeless, and the mother that they placed her with was an alcoholic. Rachel wants to know why. What is it that is wrong with her and how to fix it, and she doesn't want to wait for another clone to die of the disease first. She wants to fix what is wrong with her before it affects her. And Leaky says he didn't raise her. Neolution did in a corporation, and he doesn't know who or what she is. That he didn't raise her because she would not have turned out like that. And we see Rachel. We go back to present day Rachel, and Rachel sends Kira away because she's sort of there as she's coming into her office, and says she can talk to Sarah. And then we see Rachel is almost breaking down and getting drunk to become numb, and just sort of all this is asked of her, but she sort of all of it is shattering, and it's become a lie and a facade. Then they sort of say that Kira is on progress target for the procedure, and I love the music in this scene. I do think it's really great. And then we go back to the island, and Mark and Cody are visiting Ira's grave, and Mark asks, "Are any of the casters left?" There are none, and he asks how did she choose which one of them would be sent to Susan, and Cody drew straws. And then we go back to Donnie and Allison, who is getting rid of all of her craft pies, and he's like, "And your scissors, all your scissors?" Like, yeah. And Allison has realised art is meant to be freeing and relaxing, which her crafts are not, to lose control. Release your inner chaos, uncovering her shadow self could be an artist or could be just be desires that aren't necessarily good. By keeping them in the dark, they manifest in bad behaviours like Alison's drinking and need to control everything. She isn't going to tell her Donnie what to do anymore. The craft room is becoming the music room as Alison brings a piano in, and Donnie's like, can I get a bass? And it's all a bit like, if they made that a band and they do music, can I hear that? Because I'd love that. I'd listen to that. I can see Alison's point, and like, it is meant to be freeing and it's not meant to be like, well, you're so pent up with stress. But I don't know how long that will last or whatever. I want to see that. I actually want to see Alison where she doesn't tell Donnie what to do anymore. And then we go to Kira, who is video calling Sarah and is showing her story that she's finished, which is an underlying message to say that the elephant is Rachel, the mouse is Kira, the sand is Sarah, and Wonderland is the island, because she said, what was it and what was it? I'm gonna find it. I'll get a picture of it and put it up here because I've now learned how to do that. But it's sort of saying that they're sending her to the island where Cody is. Sarah sort of doesn't know what to say, and Kira wants to come home and nothing she can do about it. And she knows if Kira goes to the island, she'll never come back to Sarah. And we go back to Rachel in a scene that is reminiscent of the time when she discovered the betrayal of her parents. Goes into the same room and watches the same clip of her as a child playing outside with Ethan and Susan whilst drinking and breaking down. And it's sort of a bit like, for someone who has a limp walk, because Rachel sort of does. I mean, Tatiana Maslany doesn't, but like, it's sort of put on because her brain was damaged, so you know, you can't be sort of perfect walker. I'm not a perfect walker. They don't have to put her in long dresses. If you've got problems sort of walking, long dresses you can trip over and stuff, not a good idea. And sort of making her drink, which is sort of like makes her even more staggery stuff. It's just a bit like, they don't give her a break. But PT rings her while she's in there and sort of is like, you know, are you okay? Because he can see through her eye that she is slightly losing it. And Rachel's sort of starting to suspect PT of not exactly being or doing what he says he is. And he says, because I've asked you to do something you don't want to do. And Rachel replies that, you know, I would do anything for him, and I don't believe that. And she says, I was so naive. I asked Leaky, could I call him Dad? Isn't that funny? And Westmoreland replies with, well, you've transcended that too, daughter, which is why I've shared all my secrets with you. And then Dr. Frontenac comes with Kira to get Rachel and almost to swap places, Kira and Rachel. And Rachel says she will give Kira the sedative. And Kira asks her, are you okay? And then, who hurt you? And Rachel says, all of them. And then she sort of says to Dr. Frontenac, I was the one who brought Kira to Dyad with the last face she sees here. Then Kira sat down and shown a video call from PT, who asks if she has any idea how important she is and that he can't wait to meet her, ignoring her pleas to sort of go home. And then we go back to the crack team of Scott, Cosima and Hellwizard. That I'm gonna need to think of a name for them besides the Geneva Three, who's looking through obituaries of male students who died at Cambridge during Susan's time there. And the last face they show is PT. And they call Sarah to tell her, and we find out that his real name is John Patrick Matheson, who was announced dead when he failed to return after sailing off the coast. Although they never found a body, and he was from Texas. We go back to Rachel, who is putting a sedative in the drink to give to Kira, and Sarah rings her. But we later see that Sarah emailed her to say, call me, to tell her that PT is a fraud. And she sends her the article about John's death and how he's not 170, that he was born in Texas in 1939 to an oil tycoon. He's 78 years old. She says, John Patrick Matheson, he's not 170, he was born in Texas in 1913 to an oil tycoon. Silver spoon so far up his ass, he could afford the ego it took to do this shit. And Rachel's like, fraud? Oh no, I never knew his real name, but you knew he was a fraud. And I'm a bit like, I'm not too sure on that one. I'm not too sure that Rachel knew exactly. And Rachel's like, fraud, we're all fraud. And Sarah replies to saying, Rachel, you knew his secret. What about your board? How are they going to react to this? And Rachel's like, do you think they believe you? You, a nuisance clone? A nuisance clone? And Sarah's like, I know what you're planning to do to Kira. What you're planning to do with her eggs and taking her away. She needs her family. You needed your family. And he took them away from you as an experiment. Don't let that happen to Kira. Let her come home. And Rachel's a bit like, it's out of my hands, Sarah. It is. He took away her family. Her chance to be with her family. Because if you listen to Susan and Duncan, Duncan wanted to be with his daughter, but because they sort of told him no and that she was their property. And I think Tatiana does a perfect job as Sarah. She spent years not being the mum Kira needed her to be, and she's sort of finally stepping up and showing her that Kira, that her mum is there for her, and it's sort of being taken away from her. She's seen how damaged Rachel is by her childhood, and she doesn't want that for Kira. And I think Tatiana Maslany also did a perfect job as Rachel as well. And you know, I think in the same way Rachel has seen the effect her childhood had on her. She didn't have a family. They either chose to leave her or were forced to leave her. And when she needed them, she spent time with Kira and knows she doesn't want that for Kira. And for the amount of selfishness and sort of ruthlessness that Rachel had deep down, I think Rachel is quite maternal, and she's had that snatched away from her too. She cares for Kira and knows it's not right. She knows if that was her child, she wouldn't want that. And although Sarah and Rachel are polar opposites, I think they're very similar in that way as well. Why exactly has just gone out of my head, but I probably will explain it next week, probably. Yeah. And then we see that Rachel is sort of figuring out a plan. She goes to see Kira and makes her drink all in front of PT with the eye. And Kira, before sort of she's in a stupor of sedative, she says, "Did you hate being studied when you were my age?" And Rachel's like, "I don't remember." And Kira's asking, "Did you get used to it?" And Rachel's like, "Yeah." And then Rachel sort of sees herself instead of Kira, like her young version of herself. And Rachel asks, why don't you run?" And Kira's like, "Where would I go?" And Rachel then picks her nails like in the flashback, and Kira says, "My mum used to do that." And then Rachel goes back to her office and orders Dr. Frontenac to take care of Sarah, that, you know, she's blackmailing them. And then when he leaves, she twirls her necklace and looks at it whilst typing. I don't know whether I could do that, because let me just put this sock on. And she sort of texts someone to say, "I assure you, it's not a joke." And who did she text? She texts Art! Yes! Because Art, then we go to Art, who's knocking on Sarah and Mrs. S's door, being like, "You're never gonna believe this. You won't believe it." She texted Art, to alert Sarah and Mrs. S that they're coming for them. And then Rachel sits in a yoga area that we last saw with Ferdinand Pooh and shuts her eyes, and then before she opens them, she places an eye patch over her techie eye, because yeah, techie eye, so PT can't see, and buys herself time. With the eye patch over her eye, Rachel heads to Kira to break her out. We see Dr. Frontenac as well storm Sarah's house, and they're not there. And then the lift doors open, and it's Art, Mrs. S, and Sarah. I'm so happy to take Kira, and Rachel helped them. She helped Kira, and all the while PT is sort of making her eye glitch, and he was why she was seeing all those visions of the glitching swan. And then they get in the lift, and Mrs. Mal sort of says thank you to Rachel, because really she's put herself in danger by doing that. And then Rachel heads back to her office, and PT's calling her, and she sends, while still having the eye patch over her eye, she sends the news article exposing PT/John to the board members, makes herself a drink and takes off the eye patch. And then she sits down, sort of starts drinking a drink, and then smashes the stem of the glass and proceeds to use it to remove her neo eye, all with PT watching. It was pretty grim watching. Like, probably the first time I've been slightly grossed out. So that was an episode and a half. That was really good. And apparently it's only gonna get worse. But no, I'm so nervous for episode 9. That was my review of episode 8. Thanks for watching. Bye!